For UConn and Dan Hurley, the players he's brought in, the future is now.
Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.
Welcome into the Hoops Cat Pod. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto. We're here on the Hoops Cat, powered by Big East Energy Network, the only daily podcast on both the UConn men's and women's basketball programs. I want to thank you for being here. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe, whether it's here on YouTube or other podcast networks or podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to it. Download the Hoops Cat Pod. Make sure you're downloading all of the shows on the Big East Energy Network, because I will likely be on most of them and likely going to have a phenomenal year talking about hoops with the rest of the crew here at Big East Energy Network. So go to BigEastEnergy.com to get some really cool merch, including this Dream Season bomber jacket. I think it's fantastic. I got my Big East Energy logo on the back, and let's see if we can spin around. You can see it. Hopefully you can see that. Big East Energy. And we're back. All right. Listen, the future is so bright with this UConn team, because I'm talking about what's been on display before our very eyes in the last few days. And of course, you guys know this. I'm talking about the FIBA Under-19 World Cup in Switzerland, of which I know Dan Hurley and Luke Murray are there watching Jacob Furphy and Eric Reibe, two incoming UConn Huskies who are making some serious noise on the international stage. Let's start with Jacob Furphy, who's putting on a show for Australia. He's been one of the breakout performers in the tournament so far. On Sunday, Furphy logged 46 minutes. Yes, 46, because it was a double overtime thriller against Cameroon. He dropped 18 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, finished with a plus 17 plus minus, the best on the team. And then just this upcoming 2 days ago, after he dropped 24 points on Team USA in the tournament opener. So if you were wondering whether Furphy could rise to the level of elite competition, that question's already been answered. But also, I want to talk about this before we get into his skill sets. It's really not the box score. He showed us his full skill set. He's a soft left-handed player in terms of his floater. He has end-to-end hustle. He is defensively, I wouldn't call him slow-footed, but he tries really hard to stay in front of guys, and he's done a really good job. I saw one highlight of today where he kind of reached and got called for a foul, and it was a bad foul. But for the most part, he's been really good on the defensive side. He has a good ability to finish at the rim at 6'6", 210 pounds, good energy, motor, clearly a Dan Hurley basketball player through and through. And he's built like a guy that should be playing in the pros. Thick, has the length, and kind of not just a rotation piece, but a guy like Steph Castle, a guy like Cam Spencer. And I'm going to shy away from using the Cam Spencer reference, because everybody and their mother is saying, oh man, he reminds me of Cam Spencer. He reminds me of Cam Spencer. Guess what, guys? Cam Spencer just signed a 2-year deal worth $4.5 million to go play in the NBA for the Memphis Grizzlies, coming off of a 2-way deal. Congratulations to Cam Spencer. But Jacob Furphy is not Cam Spencer. He's Jacob Furphy. He's Australian. He is Tasmanian, if you will, right? He is an absolute, just his own player. First off, he's left-handed. I know he's white, so it's easy to make that description, right? You want to compare him to another white player that played at UConn, and that's not something that's wrong. It's just the reality, right? We're going to get into that and some of that kind of weird coded language, because got a couple white boys on this team. We got him, Eric, you got Braylon Mullins, who we're going to talk about here in the second segment. But let's go to Eric Reibe, who's holding it down for Germany. He's 7 foot. He's skilled. This is no knock on Donovan Clingan, who is a 2-time national champion and was a first-round pick, but he's not Donovan. He is almost the antithesis of Donovan, because he's coming in with a pro-ready offensive game. He can shoot the ball from 3. He's got soft hands, a little under the radar, but he's not the defensive player that Donovan is, but he is still 7 foot. And you saw him block a couple shots in this tournament as well. In Germany's 90-66 win over China, Reibe scored 15 points, was 6 of 10 from the floor, had 5 rebounds, posted a plus 24 in 23 minutes, second best on the team. He's playing well. Just saw him play today. When this podcast comes out tomorrow, he'll have already played against who did Reibe play against the second time? When Australia was playing France, but either way, he's playing really well. He's the kid from Maryland. In case you guys didn't know, remember I had him on my show when I was on Locked On Podcast Network. He's the guy who said, I'm happy to be a fucking Husky. So if you're not aware of who Eric Reibe is, get familiar, because this dude is going to take this UConn team by storm. For those of you who are worried about, Tom Moore talked about how they need to get a third string center so we can have some more beef out there. If Eric Reibe plays even half as well as he's playing in overseas right now, UConn is fine. Between him and Terrace Reed as the 2 centers, and having a rotation of Alex, of having Dwayne Karamo be another 4, going small and having Jay Stu play the 4. This team is built for the type of movement and the type of flow and rhythm of an offense that doesn't need a stick in the mud defensive only player. No disrespect, like a Youssef, who is kind of all over the place and transferred to a mid-major in High Point. Just really wasn't ready to contribute. But Eric is. Because Eric is not only 7 foot and has the skill set to post you up, but if you saw in some of the game highlights today, he has the ability to play pick and pop too. So that opens up so many possibilities. You can't just go, all right, I'm just going to back up and not let him and let him shoot. Can't do that with that guy. He is an absolute threat from 3. So by the time October rolls around, if you're worried about how UConn replaces, I know it's been a couple of years, but a guy like Steph, a guy like Cam, a guy like Donovan, Furphy and Reibe are already giving you reasons to believe that last year was a blip on the radar screen, and this year these prospects are absolute players. By the time October rolls around and we get into November, there could be more than I don't think that these guys were initially thought of by the fan base as guys who could potentially start or play big minutes. But I think you're seeing, in particular with Jacob Furphy, with him handling the rock, I think you're seeing the type of player that UConn knows they have as a wild card. And I don't know what the cuisine is in Switzerland. Maybe it's I don't know. But whatever it is, at dinner tonight, Luke Murray and Dan are absolutely giddy talking about these guys. And I'm sure they're being coaches, and I'm sure they're hesitating, and I'm sure they're being shy about the praise that they give to the media and all that stuff. And as they should, because I think Dan needs to learn from what he did last year, which is putting too many expectations on guys who just didn't fit the bill. I don't think he's going to do that this year, because I think he just is going to let it all play out and then essentially say, I told you. Do you remember in the press conference? I think it was after the Villanova game when he talked about the monster class. Might have been, or maybe it might have been Xavier or the Butler game. Doesn't matter. The monster class, obviously, the reason why, and we're starting to look at it, the reason why a guy like Darius Adams decommitted is where do you get minutes? If this guy, Jacob Furphy, is playing in under-19 FIBA and dominating, and he's going to come to UConn next year, and Darius Adams was struggling in the McDonald's All-Americans game, it's a no-brainer. I think it was a mutually good decision, right? So if you're wondering why we lost out on Darius Adams and then filled it with a Jacob Ross, who's a 4-star recruit who can kind of work his way, brother of Jaden Ross, you kind of know what you're getting from a working perspective. So that's why. Furphy is controlling pace. He's got that little hesitation kind of, dribble where someone's on your hip and they can't do anything. You kind of got him locked in and can kind of do whatever he wants, can score, can make lobs, can pass out. The ability to kind of play that little hezzy dribble and play that pick and roll game is going to be huge for UConn, because you don't necessarily need Silas to do it. You don't necessarily need Malachi to do it. You have multiple guys who can do this, including a guy like Jacob Furphy. Plus, having him be a lefty is an interesting thing. I'm dead serious. You guys are going to think I'm being silly, but as a former professional tennis player, I will say this to you guys as a coach. I've asked players in the past, why are you hitting it to their forehand, left-handed forehand? And someone will go, oh, are they lefty? Like, you'd be surprised. Elite athletes at high levels, just they get into this range of like, all right, everyone's right-handed. And I know it sounds so weird, but having been in that world where you're coaching players who aren't thinking clearly because they're just in battle, and a guy's beating you left all game, it's because he's lefty, and you got to cut that off. It's kind of and so you kind of almost have a cheat code when you have a couple lefties that you can kind of throw in that are highly skilled, like Jacob, like Eric. That's all I'll say about that. Not something that they're banking on, but this is just kind of luck of the draw here to have these guys as lefties coming in. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our guy, Braylon Mullins, who we also had on the Locked On show way back when. Still good friends with his pops. Shout out Josh, and really excited about Brilen. And I wrote a scouting report about Brilen, and I'm going to read it to you kind of word for word of what I want to expect and what I think I can expect from Brilen coming in next year. We're going to do that coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Hoops Cat Pod. I wanted to show you this hat. This is Big Hoops Energy. We sell it on the Big East Energy store.com, bigeastenergy.com. Check it out. Also, if you're thinking about starting a podcast and you don't know how, reach out to me. Reach out to our parent company, that's our company, Big Energy Media. You can find our website at bigenergymediapods.com. And check that out. If you're interested, I'm pretty sure it's live, but if not, reach out to me on X at Mark Zanetto CBB. Reach out on Facebook or Instagram at Mark Zanetto. Check me out. Reach out if there's something that you want to do, and you already have a built-in audience, or maybe you're just starting from scratch. We're happy to help and see if we can get you on the best creator platform there is, which is the Big East Energy Network. Big Energy Media Pods. So check that out. All right, Braylon Mullins. Wanted him from the start. Didn't think UConn was going to be able to get him because of all the Indiana stuff. Was wrong on that. Was happy to be wrong. Was happy to literally talk to my Indiana friends and say, you were wrong. You were wrong about who, whether this kid was going to come. And even the shows that went on when I was on the other network, kind of just saying like, I would love to have him. I just don't know if UConn's going to be able to pull him away from Indiana. Well, he's here, and he's so good because he's been coached by such good coaches in the past. And here's what I wrote about Brilen a little long ago, and I added to it because of just recently with the NBA draft. First off, plays off 2 feet. He's tough. He's a fighter at the rim. He's not going to jump over anyone, but he's also a better athlete than people will give him credit for. And I will say this, as I mentioned it earlier. Look, he's a white kid from Indiana, so there's always going to be coded language around kids. If he's white and he's fast, he's sneaky quick or deceptively fast. Or he's a gym rat, hard worker. He always seems to be in the right spot around the ball, right? Well, let me save you the trouble. Brilen is all of those things, but he's also a plus athlete too. Maybe not a freak athlete or in the nature of a 50-inch vertical leap, but he's twitchy, he's bouncy, he's got enough wiggle in his game to be an absolute problem. And he could quite honestly pattern his game like a Luka Doncic, because in terms of his ability to break you down off the dribble and play off 2 feet in the paint, but his main focus at UConn next year is going to be scoring. If it's not solo, it's going to be Brilen coming off screens, and he's got an absolutely perfect shot. As a connoisseur of shooters, because I consider myself as a basketball player, the one thing I do exceptionally well is shoot the rock. They don't get much purer than Braylon Mullins. Elbow tucked in, perfect high release, and when he's alone, he has a set shot. It's automatic. Absolutely automatic. Honestly, it would be a fun debate, and I'm sure they're already competing, but who's a better pure shooter between Bray and Solo? Both have impeccable form. So when they're at the height of the release point, it's almost a shock when they miss. But the impressive thing for Braylon is when you're not the best athlete, because Solo is a freak of nature. He can dunk on you. He's got 7 foot, think 2 wingspan, crazy long arms, right? But what's impressive about Braylon is when you're not the best athlete, you have to be a technician. And his footwork, how he prepares his feet early. I'll digress there for a quick story. When I was first getting into this media game, I struck up a relationship with Wes Miller from then UNC Greensboro. And he was playing tennis with me to get in shape. And I asked him to reciprocate. He was like, yeah, come into the gym and we'll kind of do a workout. And I'll never forget like him giving me the advice that he was given early about, he's like, you have a good jump shot. He's like, but you don't set your feet soon enough and that's why you're coming up short on a lot of shots as you get more tired. So when you prepare early, all it is just about the release point and the muscle memory of shooting. So if you're gathering and your legs are set and you're not having to do all of that in the last minute, that's where that quick release comes in. And when I tell you Braylon has limitless range, it's not an exaggeration. I think he's going to be best at going left, which makes sense because if he pulls up, his shooting pocket is centered at the rim. But back to his playing off of 2 feet. He reminds me a lot of Jalen Brunson at Villanova, obviously not lefty, but taller. Because Jalen, who's an NBA All-Star, an MVP type player now with the Knicks, was unstoppable once he got in the paint in college, and he could stroke it from deep too. He could back you down. I think there's an easy comparison from last year's college game with Con Knippel, who just got drafted 4th overall by the Hornets. He's going to be playing with our boy Liam McNeely, but I think Braylon has more upside. I think he's an inch shorter, but still similar to Con. He's kind of flying under the radar because he's not the Cooper Flag in the number 1 recruit. But unless you're a spurned Hoosiers fan or a UConn psycho like us, you're going to look at this and go, all right, Braylon Mullins is easily going to be flying up draft boards once he gets into game footage. So that's my scouting report on Braylon. Limitless range, plays off 2 feet, exceptionally high IQ, can be a scorer off the ball, can absolutely put the ball in his hands and get to the rim, a la, obviously, listen, not Jalen Brunson of 2025 because that guy potentially could have been the NBA MVP, but this kid has that type of ability to back you down, to kind of run an offense if he needed to. It's not his strongest suit, but it's definitely a part of his game, and it's only going to get better. The kid's 18 years old. I think the tutelage under Dan Hurley and how to compete and be ready for the next level, this kid's going to be a one and done. I'd be shocked if he wasn't, because that's the way this UConn team is formed. You bring in a bunch of guys. Their roles are going to be different, and Braylon's role is you're our next one and done. You are our next absolute sniper, shooting star. This dude is going to rival Solo as the best shooter on this team, and I don't even think it's going to be close. All right, we're going to take another quick break and talk about UConn's complex offense. How are guys handling it? Got a couple reports from beat reporters on the scene, and we're going to paraphrase a little bit of how Silas Damari Jr. is doing. Malachi Smith, who recently just had minor knee surgery, but should be back in August, how he's going to compare to Hassan Diarra coming up after the break. All right, you're back on the Hoop Scout Pod, powered by Big East Energy. Check out BigEastEnergy.com, especially if you like this hat. Big Hoops Energy, everyone has it. If you're a UConn fan, at least I have since 1986. UConn's complex offense. I think one thing that I've read, and I've talked to some people on the ground there, that it's derived from different styles of basketball over the world, and that's what's so beautiful about them being in Switzerland watching FIBA, is they take some of these international leagues, plays, actions that they see, and tailor it to the personnel, and it literally made them bulletproof during the Huskies back-to-back national championship seasons. But last year, with struggles particularly stemming from a lack of size and depth at the point guard position, UConn really could get bogged down on offense, and if things went off script at times, you could see their offense fall stagnant and a lot of times literally fall apart. So the first priority of this offseason was to shore up that spot, and Dan Hurley and his staff didn't stray too far from the championship blueprint. They snagged Silas Damari Jr., the 6'5" guard from Georgia, who possesses the qualities similar to our own Tristan Newton, who was a transfer from East Carolina and won back-to-back national championships with UConn. and with backup Malachi Smith, who recently had that minor knee surgery, but almost a carbon copy clone of Hassan Diarra, probably an inch or two taller, little thicker, more physical. The rest of UConn's probable rotation, minus the incoming freshman and center Terrace Reed Jr., has been part of a national championship team. So, quote from Dan, we'll probably have a lot more continuity than a lot of people, but we have two quarterbacks that we've got to get up to speed, Hurley said at the NBA draft last week. That is the most critical position. UConn's first summer session involved more opportunities to play off script than it has in the past. The new quarterbacks weren't just thrown a playbook. And this is an admission from Dan, and I think it's a great one. And I also think it shows the type of awareness and ability of him to adapt. He said, quote, I think we did a bad job last year of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and then not being more flexible and with adapting the way we play to the talent of those guys. Hurley said, we're trying to work on more transition offense and getting better in one-on-one situations, getting our players to not be so reliant on the system. Two things on that. And the system is still important. It still remains a significant part of how UConn will play in the 25-26 season. But the ability to play off script and the ability to play one-on-one basketball is not conducive to winning titles if that's all you do. But at some point in games, when you don't run your offense well for whatever reason, you're tired, they figure some stuff out, you do need to have some dudes that can just go get you a bucket. And this is a quote from Dan. We're trying to get these guys to play off script more in the summer, and we're sprinkling in teaching elements of how we can move off the ball, because it's tough for these guys to pick up everything, but they're really smart players like Silas and Malachi in particular are like really, really smart, intuitive. And Brilen, who we just talked about, picks things up quickly because he played high school ball in Indiana and he played for really good coaches. End quote. Listen, before we get back into Brilen and everyone else, I think what this tells me too is Dan is realizing that as time goes on and as the competition to bring in type of players that he wants to coach is going to get tougher with the house settlement, with NIL payments and everything that goes into this crazy college basketball world now. The fact that you can come to UConn and say, not only will you play in an offense so sophisticated that NBA teams steal from us, but you also will learn how to play the type of game that you need to play in the NBA, because let's face it, if you watch any of the NBA finals, I loved Indiana and Oklahoma City were there, but if it came down to it and you needed a bucket from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you needed a bucket from Jalen Williams on Oklahoma City, those guys went out and got you a bucket. Same could be said for Tyrese Halliburton or, God, even TJ McConnell. So, like, it doesn't always have to come within the flow of the offense for you to score points. On the other side of this, the wing duo of Jalen Storton and Jaden Ross beefed up a little bit. Jay Stu's up to around 225. Jaden Ross is up to about 218. And quote Dan, I think that's where we want them to play at. They look the way we want them to look, much stronger, he said. And obviously, another year of experience. I know this sounds weird, but like the older you get, unless you're completely sedentary, like some of us can be sometimes, you gain strength just by being older and kind of allowing your muscles to grow into your body at that age. So, 20-year-old Jalen Storr and 20-year-old Jaden Ross are going to look a little different at 225, 220 than, say, someone like myself who's 44. And then obviously you have Jacob Furphy, who's dominating in the FIBA Under-19 World Cup. Same with Eric Reibe, who is going to kind of come into this and be a part of this machine that UConn is creating. And the other beautiful thing is we've seen lately is guys coming back. Steph Castle, Jordan Hawkins, Isaiah Whaley, the Wrench, Christian Vital, Tyler Polley. Just getting all of those guys there, like all of these guys being a part of this summer camp, so to speak, is a really great thing. And it's a great vibes thing it's great. And this is a quote from her. It's great for them because it's good for their soul to get back to a place they love and a place that means so much. Just get them back to their roots. I think it's just a really good exercise for those former players. And it's great for our guys and for the coaches to have those mentors. So there you have it, guys. Absolutely phenomenal start to the Huskies on the world stage. Dominating performances from both Eric Reibe and Jacob Furphy. I can't wait for Braylon Mullins to actually get some game footage. I'm praying every day that nobody gets hurt, because the only thing that's going to derail this team from a Final Four potential national championship third and fourth year is if anybody gets hurt or if they get some type of, just bad luck where some guys have nagging injuries all year. So if we stay healthy, if we stay positive, this team has a chance and likely will win the Big East this year. I'm not making any predictions, but this team is, I think, at least a Final Four caliber team. National championships is definitely in the conversation. This team could be potentially special, and I'm just looking forward to it. Check us out, BigEastEnergy.com, the Big East Energy Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, download everything that is on the Big East Energy Network. That helps us out a lot, not just the UConn guys, but everybody. Villanova, we got Holy Nova, we got Johnny's Report, we got Pirate Vibes. We even have Built to Ball, which is a Big East Energy women's basketball show that just debuted. That's going to be a weekly show. EJ Arrow on Target with EJ Arrow talking about the women's game professionally all over the globe, including the WNBA. So if you're a Paige Beckers fan, you can get a lot of that there. I'm super excited. We got a Georgetown podcast that's coming down the pike. So stay with us. We're going to keep growing. And this has been another episode of the Hoops Cat Pod. We're out.
Let's get it, let's get it. Let's get it, let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.